So this week we're taking a bit of a detour in our series on the book of Job. Inspired in part by the questions that Job asks when his world is turned upside down, I got to thinking, wouldn't it be good to hear from people about how they're doing in this upside down world? Specifically, I wanted to ask, what are we noticing about ourselves? What are we noticing about other people and the world around us? What are we noticing about God? What are we seeing in Scripture these days and in our relationship with Jesus? So I hopped on the Zoom machine with a few friends and we talked about these very questions. And I'm so excited for you to get to hear from these friends today. We're going to get to hear from Betsy, who's been home with her 2 kids and managing a whole house remodel project with her husband Chris. And Kevin, who has been working his engineering job from home full-time. Bethany, who's been spending long days as program coordinator at a memory care facility. And then Edie and Bruce, who are home together in their semi-retired life, finding God meeting them in meaningful ways every day. So we're going to hear from the first 4 friends, and then you won't want to miss Bruce's reflections at the end. And I just know that these friends are really going to speak to your spirit today. So without further ado, here are Betsy, Kevin, Bethany, Edie, and Bruce. What are you cherishing most in this time?
So I really appreciate being able to work from home, and I love working on my sofa. It's so comfortable, and one of the things that I appreciate about sitting on the sofa is the hummingbirds are right outside of my window. So throughout the day, I can look outside, see my plants, see my flowers, and I get to watch the hummingbirds, which is just wonderful entertainment for me.
I work in a memory care facility. And so one of the pieces of my job right now is organizing virtual visits for our residents with their families. So watching our residents who are in their 80s and 90s and even 100 talk to the iPad and realize that their family member can talk back, watching them discover things like FaceTime and Zoom and all these new technologies that they've never seen before. That's been really fun.
We're getting a lot of snuggle time in. So I'm really cherishing all the hugs and the snuggles with my kids. I'm really cherishing those moments. Those are the times when I stop and I just go, it was hard or it was a bad day, but I'm hugging my little right now and it feels really good.
And I read a post that said, we are not all in the same boat, but we are in the same storm. However, our boats look very different. And our boat here is very comfortable, quite comfortable, which we're thankful for. But I found that I was rowing too hard. And the thing I cherish is that I was given the chance or forced, in a sense, to put the brakes on, stop work. So I work at the hospital in the department called Integrative Health. I do have direct patient access and care. And because of my age, and I'm a care partner with Bruce, it was best decided that I stop work. So I stopped for a month. And I got a chance to look at the pace of my life. This took a couple weeks. And while I was handling many, many things, I reevaluated, and I'm going to make some changes in my work schedule and in the pace of my life. So I cherish that. And that was a forced march, or a forced stop march. And it was good.
So what's maybe one thing you're missing a lot right now? You're really missing most?
One thing that I'm really missing is not having to think everything through to the nth degree, both personally and professionally. Going to the store to get whatever you forgot yesterday isn't really an option or a good idea right now. So having to plan everything through and think things through, and then at work as well, having to overthink everything. Like, okay, so we used to play bingo, but we can't do a big group. So how do we do bingo now? And it's every single day with everything we do. It's exhausting. So I miss not having, I guess I miss the ease at which we used to do things.
There's two things I miss most. I miss going to the pool with Bruce twice a week. We would, rain or shine, be in the car down the road, 8:15 in the morning, headed to the Bremerton Y, where we enjoyed water exercise and worked out with Bruce, and then I got to swim some laps. But we do miss the people, the lifeguards, the staff, the interfacing there was just, it was like going to a great club or home. Everybody knew everybody there, and it was really nice, very uplifting. And then the next thing I miss is gathering, just gathering with people. And I realized that our gatherings of celebrations and funerals and graduations and weddings are very important, but I have also realized the gathering of 2 or 3 face to face, and I mean full face to face, none of this mask stuff, the eyes, the whole, how important that is. And that is soul food to me.
What I'm missing most would be also hugging. I miss hugging my friends and my family. Chris's family lives 20 minutes away, and we see them in socially distant situations sometimes, but we can't hug, and we sit and we talk very far away from each other, and it's just such a human thing to want to love on somebody, and I can't do that right now. And when your friends, crying or whatever and standing 6 feet away from you, and all you can do is say, I wish I could hug you right now. So that's what I'm missing the most right now.
That I miss church services, certainly miss singing in the choir, and I miss going to the Seattle Symphony. Part of the reason for that is I hear God in music. I see God in art, and I'm afraid that it's going to be quite a while before I get to go and hear God in music and see God at art galleries.
What are you noticing about yourself in this, Betsy? What are some things that kind of surfacing about you that you're...
Yeah, well, it's not necessarily a positive thing, but I'm noticing how hard I am on myself and what a good self-critic I am. And it's easier for me to extend grace to other people or to my children than it is to myself. So it's a big one. And I know that it's something I need to work on. And right now it's too hard to dig down and do that. But unfortunately, that's one of the things that's coming to light. I've kind of always known that about myself, but just having so much more time to sit with things and reflect on things, good or bad, that's one of those things that's coming to light.
The thing that I've noticed most about myself is how much of an introvert I am. I am very comfortable sitting at home and working from home, and honestly not interacting with people. It kind of surprises me. It concerns me a little bit, because I see people on the news talking about how people are having anxiety because they're not going out. And I'm having the opposite reaction. I'm like, this is great. Can I just stay in my house forever?
I feel like so the last decade of my life has been chaotic and crazy and exhausting and hard. And so I've been grieving a lot of that, ending with the death of my parents in the last year and a half. And I felt like I was kind of coming out of that a little bit and able to function better and had more reserves to do things. And I have discovered that I don't have those reserves I thought I had. That now there's a new kind of grief over, everything else that has been lost. And not necessarily lots of it for me, but for other people. And at the same time, relief that my parents aren't here anymore. because I can't imagine managing their care without being able to see them, especially because they were both nonverbal. So I couldn't even really have done phone calls with them. So just kind of all of that extra emotion has been a lot. And so on top of working full time, just kind of being like, yeah, I really don't have energy for anything else.
I have realized how important creating is to me. Planting, cooking, music, knitting, using my hands in different ways. And I've just noticed how much of my day I long for that and look to fit that in with chores and other things. And I noticed that I'm still an adventurer, always have been, and thus I purchased an e-bike or an electric bike. Yep, bit the bullet and got it, and I'm just loving it with all the hills around here, and took my first ride with my friend. We did about 8 miles, delivered some food to the food line, and went out for coffee, and it was great. So I'm glad to have that little spark of adventure still happening.
What are you noticing about other people? And maybe what are you appreciating in other people right now?
I work with a really great staff who keeps coming to work. And that's not an easy thing to do right now. A lot of them have families and they're scared for their families. But they keep coming to work and have positive attitudes. And work together really well to help our residents the best we can. I have noticed how people show up, whether it's by checking in, phone calls, or by, watching people donate to food banks or whatever. Like, people are showing up in whatever way they can.
I like what Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers, he told us that always look for the helpers. This time, those helpers are running toward the hospitals. Medical professionals are stripping their clothes out in the street in front of their home to reduce the likelihood that they're carrying the virus into their house and affecting their family. I've read of other medical people, they're staying in hotels. They're not even going home. And that really related to me, because I know what it was like when I went on deployment, and you're not interacting with the people that you love, but I'm going in a foreign nation. These medical workers are self-isolating in their homes or in the United States. They're fighting a war, and it's here that they're fighting it. So I really appreciate that, and look out and see God working through them, and praying that they have strength and courage, that they can continue their job and that they don't get others sick.
Well, we have loved the parade of people that have gone by our house, and of dogs of every make and type. We just see so many more people out together talking, sometimes late into the evening. And I always look at them and I wonder what their story is, what they left at home. Sometimes I see dads marching with strollers, just pushing, and I go, I think it's a rough day for him. And so I really love to watch the people get outside a little bit more.
I am noticing just simple acts of kindness that I probably would take for granted before, or just maybe not quite feel as grateful for them. Just phone calls from friends or texts from friends. How are you doing? Just checking in. People helping you stay positive. And my husband's really good at that too. So I'm really thankful that I have him as a partner, because he's much more positive than I am in general. And even my kids, when I'm having a hard day and it's obvious, I feel like, I might actually be teaching them empathy, because they're coming around to me and giving me hugs and saying, it'll be okay, Mom. And, so I'm just noticing goodness in others.
What am I noticing about God? several times when I've started to pray, the song, "Thank You for Being My Friend," has come into my mind. And I just thought, that's what I'm feeling about God so much now, that he's a friend or a companion. I'm learning great things on the discussions on prayer that Deanna has on Thursday nights, lamenting, and I'm trying to be more creative in my prayer and letting go of the supposed to be this way. And I'm finding that very freeing. The studies in Job are giving me insight into the book itself, but especially the stories of the people in our church that I don't think I would learn just on a Sunday morning. And so we've been amazed at what we're learning about the people as we study Job, which has been great.
Romans 12:12 said, "Rejoice in hope, be patient in tribulation, be constant in prayer." If this is not a tribulation for us all, I don't know what a tribulation is. God has given us the virtue of patience. I learned a long time ago, never pray for patience. Just don't do it, because God will grant our prayer. We're just not going to like the way that God is teaching us patience. And this may be one of those times that he's trying to give us all patience. He's trying to teach us to have more patience. But it's hard. And that's where I'm seeing God. I'm seeing God in these little gifts and praying for the courage and praying for others so that we can get through this.
I think it was really helpful that this started in the middle of Lent, because for me that gave language and context to talk and think about God, and being, that sorrowful march towards death that we talk of, that Lent gives us permission to be sad and to be to feel all the different things. And so I've noticed that God is present in those feelings of whether it's sorrow or whether it's frustration or whether it's whatever we're feeling, God is in those too. And it's not just the happy moments, but that God's presence is with us, and he understands what we feel. And we don't, even when we don't have the words to express it, that's something that's understood.
Well, I've been noticing that God is always kind of chasing me down and reminding me of his presence. But even in those really hard days, and I just kind of feel like I'm desperate and crying out for help, he answers. He still is there. And it's like a reminder that I can't do this by myself. And I've got to just either sit down and breathe or sit down and write or listen to music, and just praise him and be thankful. And, I feel like he really is always there for me, no matter what, even if I've been ignoring him, or I haven't been reading the Bible as much as I'd like to. He does not forget me.
But mostly I'm drawn to my favorite verse, and it has a picture to go with it. So can you see the whole picture? Especially those roots down there. Jeremiah 17, 7 and 8. But blessed are those who trust in the Lord and have made the Lord their hope and confidence. They are like trees planted along a riverbank with roots that reach deep into the water. Such trees are not bothered by heat or worried by long months of drought. Their leaves stay green and they never stop producing fruit. So that one, you can clearly see how apropos that is in this day. So I'm hoping my roots are sinking deep.
What's one habit or practice or maybe attitude that you hope to bring with you into the future from this time?
Well, it kind of comes back to that empathy. I feel like I have been really learning how to be more empathetic, and looking at it from my child's perspective or my husband's perspective is easier sometimes than looking at it from my own. Sometimes it's really easy to fight back, but I'm trying to just do less of that and be a better listener, be more empathetic and be more gentle. And I feel that that is something that it's not going to go away. I feel like it's one of those things that it's going to propel me and make me a better mom, better person. And that then I need to go ahead and do that towards myself too.
So what I hope to do in the future is seek ye first the small business. I'm hoping to make sure that before I go to the big box stores, I try the mom and pops first. And I think when we go back, we're all going to be super excited to see each other, church members. We're going to appreciate each other a little bit more. When we go back, I hope that as a society that we have more appreciation for the people that are doing those behind the scenes jobs.
And I hope to continue to stop and look at the balance of my life. I hope to be able to make changes that are needed, to not be afraid to identify or name a difficulty and then come up with a solution. But sometimes that requires pause. And that is what I've learned from this time of being home more, is pausing.
So professionally, trying to keep that idea of what is the term we would use as person-centered. So how do we do person-centered activities? Hopefully not alone and isolated like some of them have to do right now, but how do we keep that the focus rather than just these group activities and hope that someone shows up? So that professionally has been one thing. And then personally, one of the things that I've discovered has been Kitsap Fresh, which is an online farmer's market. So I get to pick up food once a week through them. And that's kind of a silly thing, but it's given me appreciation for our local farmers and, what's in season this week and what just popped up. And so that's something I look forward to continuing to do and support.
Bruce's forte is writing these days, a little bit more than speaking, and so I'm going to be his voice and read what he's written. So these are Bruce's thoughts on this time period. Holding on in a confusing world. Living with a neurological condition called Parkinson's disease has provided me with tremendous advantages competing in the COVID-19 world. How so? To get my more complete answer will require more time and space than this Dear Susie column permits. So let's focus on one large one. You might call it perspective. You might call it competition or cooperation or some other label like being lucky or being blessed. But I simply think of it as listening and learning. On March 17th at around 1:30 in the morning, I woke up after what might best be described, by me anyway, as a Thomas Merton-like mystical experience. In my dream, there suddenly had appeared on a plain white banner floating in a cool West Coast breeze the following instruction. As you lose your mind, you may just be able to find your heart. For me? Yes, it had to be for me, or the pronoun chosen would not have been you. Again, insufficient time for a full explanation, but spoiler alert, it was personal and important. Oh yeah, the big advantage. Let me just say that Parkinson's cannot really be labeled easily. Everybody who lives with it experiences symptoms that are unique. I'm one of the lucky ones, no tremors or real bad shakes. However, I have been learning to appreciate the benefits of immobility. If you gather from this that being sheltered in place is not entirely new for me, you are right. With Parkinson's, eventually you also comprehend that cooperating is more effective than competing. In my case, that means understanding, appreciating, and often even learning from my wonderful wife, Edie. Again, I can access my podcasts from the World Wide Web from the kitchen, our living room, our bathroom, our bedroom, or even our deck. You might call that collecting my unique perspective. Another rare advantage I have is my faith. I have questions, confusing doubts, and apprehensions about God, but my faith is based much less on what I think I believe in my head than what I know in my heart. And so my apprehensions, fears about COVID or global warming, or even about where or why or who God is, doesn't concern me as much today as they may have yesterday. Because of the knowledge that this is my heart, somehow I've learned, slowly for sure, but day by day, to trust that God is with me through all this confusion. The future? I don't claim to know more than it is part of God's mystery, and I am happy to hold on and be part of it. And somehow, I know that it must have been God who put that message on the banner back on March 17th. I am blessed.
That was really nice.
Okay.
Wasn't that just so good to hear from these friends today? I so appreciated their tenderness, their curiosity, and their thoughtfulness in looking deeper into themselves and their relationship with Jesus. I was so blessed by those conversations, and I hope that you were too. And I encourage you to consider those questions yourselves. What are you noticing these days? Ask them of the people you're home with or the people you talk on the phone with. God is ever and always at work to grow our hearts. And like trees planted by streams of water that bear fruit in any season, so God continues to bear fruit in us as we stay rooted in God's word and God's love. Amen.